It's not time.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Fempreneur True Confessions podcast.
Welcome, everyone. We are so glad to have you here. It is a great Monday, and we're going to kick the week off really well. I am Laura, owner of ODAA, and it's a virtual assistant project management agency where we help small businesses behind the scenes get stuff done. So,
Yes,
the
we love
gist of
getting
it,
stuff done.
yeah, just
We
getting
love getting
shit
stuff
done.
done.
Yeah.
And I'm Angelique with Lady Powerhouse Solutions, and Lady Powerhouse Solutions takes a heart-centered approach to offering project and event management to women entrepreneurs who are on fire and lighten up the world with their passion and drive. And we help them achieve their mission in the most authentic way possible. And I am super excited. Today's guest is a client, and she is an entrepreneur that's lighting up the world with her passion and drive.
Yes. All right. So hold on. I had it pulled. There we go. So we're going to introduce, when I click screens, me and my computer, everybody, we know this by now. Technical is my thing. So, but we are going to introduce Jean Walters. And she has been a St. Louis-based teacher of self-empowerment principles for 40 years. There we go. She has studied metaphysics extensively and applies universal principles to every area of her life. Her articles have appeared in major newspapers and publications, and her syndicated radio show, Positive Moments, was broadcast in 110 markets nationally. Jean's passion helping people recognize their innate power and place in the universe and to live fully in their knowing. Her specialties are transformational coaching, metaphysics, dream interpretation, Akashic record keeping, and which over 35,000 have been given, and public speaking. Welcome, Jean. So
Thank
glad to have you here.
you. Thank you so much. I'm glad to
Super
be here.
excited. Yeah, Jean was a guest back in 2022, so we're having her back and I check in and see how things are going. What has changed since we talked last? We didn't really talk about that before we went live, but
Well,
a lot has
everything.
changed for you.
Everything. So I moved my office, so that was a big one. And then now I'm working on a new book. I haven't. Let's see. I think the last book I published was in 2022. So now I'm working on a new book called the 52 weeks to make the connection to spirit and joy and transform your life forever. And in that book, I have a little blog, an extra, I would say it's like a little class maybe.
Okay.
But anyway, some information about some kind of transformation you could make. It could be non-resistance. It could be developing your intuition, uh, learning how to meditate, things like that. And then an exercise that goes with it, so that every week, for 52 weeks, which is a year,
I can't
you,
wait. I
you
can't wait.
yeah, you can start developing this metaphysical side of your life, developing a spiritual approach to things, and really kind of open up into a bigger picture of yourself, because we are very vast beings, and sometimes we get so glued down and thinking that we're just a small little individual um, earth being, human, that we miss the point that we're so much bigger than that. We are really a dynamic energy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to guide people into that, to really help them understand that, and
It
to
is so
make it a
needed right now.
practical, make it practical. Yeah.
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 So
I
needed
love
right now.
that.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Wow, big changes and congrats. When does the book due out?
I'm sorry.
When is the
The
new
book.
book due out?
Oh, I'm on week. I have written 54 weeks. No, I'm sorry, 45 weeks rather, and so I've got a few more to go, but I've got all the notes in place, and then I've got to go back and peruse it again and re-edit it, and then I've got to find a real editor. And so there's a lot of different steps involved in getting this
Yes.
ready. But
Yeah.
it'll be ready by the end of the year for sure. I probably
Nice.
before then. But it's a work in progress, and it's happening.
And this will be
Absolutely.
is it your sixth
Yeah.
book?
Well, it'll be the 7th on Amazon once I get it placed there. And I've written other books that have gone by the wayside. Sometimes I've taken a book and then rewritten it and added more, changed the format. So I've done a lot of writing. I mean, I've been writing forever and ever. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and you've been a real encouragement to me too in my writing journey. So
good. It's fun. I mean, if you really, if it's in your heart, it's really fun. And I always think of, I feel like I'm here to change the world. That
yeah,
doesn't sound egoic, does it? But no, I really do feel like I'm here to change the world. And my particular part of that is to help people move into the light, to see what they're truly capable of, and to recognize their fullness, that
hmm hmm
their fullness of who they are. So anyway, and that's been, of course, of a lifelong journey, but it's still in place, it's still working,
Mhm.
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
having fun with it. I enjoy it. I really like
mhm,
watching the light go on in people when
yeah.
I when we reach a point and I see that they get it and the light just
It
blossoms
clicks.
out,
Yeah,
and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
cool,
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
awesome. Yeah, and you recently re is it a republishing? What is it?
Oh yes, I did. I just did a republishing of my book, Set Yourself Free, Live the Life You Are Meant to Live. I just republished that, and by the way, that will be presented at the Frankfurt Book Fair, along with a couple other of my books. So I'm
Yes.
excited about that. That's a new development too. To
Yep.
go to the book fair this year, I've decided I'm going to go bigger. So I've been, yeah. There's some great opportunities out there if you decide to go bigger.
Yes. And so, isn't it Thursday, August 16th? You're doing a book launch for that book.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
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 I'm
So,
excited about that because this time I added a study program in the book. So with the relaunch, and so then people who want to get together and do just study the concepts and the
oh, that's awesome. I didn't know
possibilities of
that.
that, yeah, they can get together and
I
do
need to
and
get a copy of the new book.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's available now. It's on Amazon.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
All of the books are available on Amazon. But, and at the end of this show, we will also, we'll, in the show notes, we'll drop all the links so you can stay up to date on. Jean has a newsletter, Jean has social media, and so you can stay in the know and get registered for the book launch and all the things, right? You have a podcast, you've got YouTube channels. So all of those things will be in the show notes so you guys can follow Jean. But today's podcast, there's no such thing as competition. Um,
Yes.
we do touch on this quite a bit because it's just so, I think it's one of the most important messages we have as a podcast is that, um, that we don't, as women entrepreneurs, that we don't compete with each other and that we do collaborate and support each other. And so that's one of the things that I definitely want to talk about today. And just a disclaimer, we're talking about business for the most
Yes.
part and life in general. We're not talking about Olympic level sports. Okay. We understand
Right.
there's competition. So just a disclaimer. But so you don't believe you have competition. So talk about that, Jean.
No, I don't have it. I think each one of us is so unique, that who could compete with me? Because I have my own unique package, talents, abilities, and there's nobody that has that exact same configuration, and they have their own. And so, I know what I'm really good at, and that's what I offer. And then I know that whoever else is out there, they have their own package of talents and abilities. So there's no need for me to say my package is better than yours, or we're
Right.
different. We're different.
Yes.
And so I offer what I offer and somebody else offers something different. I think that collaboration is the way of the future. And I think that we have been fed a lot of stuff on competition that I have to be better than you or you or you. And it's like silliness because there's plenty to go around. There's plenty of opportunities, there's plenty of clients, there's plenty of everything to go around. I don't need to be best to anybody, you
Mhm.
know. So
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's a hard concept sometimes.
well, I think it's a
Uh,
shame that we taught our kids that because
Yeah.
they've lost the whole ability to just enjoy life. And of course, now we're being fed it with politics that I'm better than this guy and he's worse than me and he did that and I did this. And it's such a shame because what we're missing in all that is what exactly is your point. I always want to say that to the end. What are you trying to sell us? Because I'm not getting the point other than you're saying you're better than the other guy. So that seems like a big waste to me. But anyway, and our kids are so consumed with it because it's almost like they don't have fun unless they won. And I'm going, well, that seems kind of silly. You were out there with your pals and you were running around the field and having a good time. Why are
Hmm.
you letting that get in the way of enjoying your day and enjoying just kicking a ball around or whatever it is you're doing?
Yeah.
Now, some people will say, "Oh, that's a crazy idea," but the truth of it is, I think it really sours your system to to try instead of just doing your best job and having a great time. If you're focusing on the other people and trying to best them, I think it sours your system, and gives you a false idea of reality because in this world we're not here to compete, we're here to cooperate and
Yes.
collaborate.
Like that's our purpose.
Yeah, to have a
Yeah.
team. Yeah, that with the book publishing and all that. I mean, I put together a team for that because I can't. I really should not be doing my own editing. That's for
Right.
sure.
Right.
And I'll say
Right.
that to any author. And and there's a lot of other technical things that I'm not good at, and so I need a team for that. And I'm happy to have a team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. And a
So
lot of,
competition is moot as far. I don't think it's the new age at all. I think it's a manufactured egoic thing that keeps us very grounded in the physical world, but it doesn't really open us up to our greater self.
yeah.
That's a nice little
Yeah.
summation there.
Yeah. And it kind of stems from having that abundance mindset,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
When you had said, when we live in an abundance mindset, we know who we really are.
Yes.
And you live in that field of energy that honors our desires, cooperates, and offers opportunities for what
Yeah.
we desire, what we intend. And by having that abundance mindset and working and collaborating with people, supporting other female entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
even though they may be seen as competition, Laura and I do really similar things, but
Mhm.
we're, we collaborate. We're
yeah.
partners.
And there's plenty for both of you, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty for
Absolutely.
both of you.
I think
Yeah.
it's the idea there is like, because you see the big corporation, it's like they're trying to get everybody. And I'm like, if you think about how many people just are in your own little neighborhood, your 5 mile radius,
Hmm.
I mean, that's a lot that you
Yeah.
can help and serve in that kind of thing. So it's if we're thinking in those terms, and then it's like, oh, why am I so adamant about like I need to win the whole world? It's not the goal. It's
Yeah.
the goal is to do and to have the business to make the difference and have the life I want too. So it
Absolutely.
really it doesn't take millions of people to have the life that I want. That doesn't make much sense to me. So I love the fact of even when people are like, oh, you grow, you grow, you grow. And I'm like, well, what if you feel like right now you're good? I can
Mhm.
Mhm.
understand maybe growing more or whatever, but for right now you feel, yay, this is
Well,
good.
growing doesn't necessarily need a number. It
Right.
could be that you're growing in compassion and you're growing in uh,
Thank you.
confidence and you're growing in understanding your place in the world and you're growing in lots. I mean, growth is not a number. It's it doesn't mean you have a bigger house than somebody else. It means internal growth or spiritual growth is about just being truly your best self, and that means learning how to be non-resistant, learning how to be non-attached, and learning how to be non-judgmental. I mean, these are all ways that we could grow every single day of our life, and it doesn't involve hurting anybody. In
Hmm.
fact, it brings a softer energy to the world. And right now,
Mhm.
because we are in a new age, we're women are really being called upon to we're the leaders of this new
Yeah.
age. not because we're women, but because we're bringing our feminine quality into the world that the world really needs right now.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is turn on television for 5 minutes, and you can see how much we need the feminine.
And then quickly turn it right back off because you don't need all that negative energy,
Yes.
So one of the things that you mentioned in the intake form that we get from guests was listening to that still small voice,
Yeah.
listening to that nudge,
Yeah.
and making that call or writing that article or whatever,
Yeah.
and how taking that one small action then leads to the next action and the next one until you if you continue to listen to that nudge, that small voice, and tune into it, and eventually you ultimately arrive at your designated intention.
Mm-hmm.
I
Exactly.
loved those words because I think that's really important when
Yes.
you're listening to the still small voice, is that you have a designated intention, that you have
Yeah.
an intention in mind. And so it almost helps give you the direction. Your own intention helps you
Yeah.
give you direction.
Your intention kind of seeds it, because then it pinpoints your mind, and and then and then the still, the thing about the still small voice is that it doesn't have to be a still small voice. It can be a very loud voice, because the more that we pay attention to it, the more we cultivate it. And I want to underline the word cultivate. The more we cultivate it, the more that it becomes dominant in our life. And so we can be leading from our intuition. And I see you nodding your head. So you know what I'm saying. That for me, that's what I want. I want to live with that, because that is actually the essence of who I really am. But it's also the highest part of who I am. That voice is my higher self, and I want that connection. And that's what I'm trying to lead people toward in my books, in my teaching, in my coaching work. Is what are you being led to right now? I mean, I have so many stories about just using it well. And I mean, one time, well, to talk about the writing, um, I was years ago, and my voice said to me, write a column. And I always go, okay. And so I wrote 5 columns, and these were like, 350 word columns, which is about what a newspaper and publication needs at that time anyway. And then I thought, okay, now what do I do with it? So I looked around at some of the papers in St. Louis, and I started sending it out to some small papers, community papers and stuff, and they rejected it. And I said this to my friend, and she said, well, I don't understand what you're doing at all. She said, you always start at the top. Why are you starting at the bottom? That doesn't make any sense. And I went, good point, good point. So I decided I was going to send it to we had 2 major newspapers in St. Louis at that time. My client comes in and he says, I do work with the assistant to the publisher of the Post Dispatch. Pulitzer was his name. I do tree work for them, and I can talk to the assistant and see if he can pay attention to your column when you send it in. I went, cool. So this is how the universe works. So
Yeah.
so I sent it to the guy, to the features editor over there, and the the assistant was watching for it. Anyway, they read it and they said, we really like it. We like your column. And he said, but but I have no room in the paper right now to put it in. We're completely booked. And I said, okay, well, maybe I'll try you later. And then I thought to myself, wow, they really liked it.
Mhm.
So I went, that's the thing I took from it. They really liked it.
Yeah.
So then I sent it to the next one, the other major paper. Okay, here's the good part now. So I sent it to them, and I called the guy and I said, features editor. I said, well, did you get my column? And what do you think? And he said, I really like it. And he said, but I didn't have room in the paper. But
Huh.
he said, but today, our editor, the editor of the paper said that we're going to start an evening paper in addition to our morning paper. So now
Oh,
your
Interesting.
column in the evening paper.
how neat.
So
I
I
love
swear to
it.
God, they really started this paper for me. So anyway, they put it in the evening paper. It was people liked it, and then in 1 month's time, they canceled the evening paper. But in the meantime, they said, and I called him. I said, "So what are you planning on doing?" And he said, "I'm going to put your column in the daytime paper now." Now the daytime paper had been going on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I got my first column in a major newspaper, and then I wrote it every week, when I got letters and stuff. It was really fun. But it's such a blast to see your column printed in the newspaper.
Hmm.
That was the first column, and then after that, when that paper died a while back, then I looked around for the next place to put it, and I just kept putting that column out in different formats. So I have a nice string of you know history with that
Fortunate
column.
events.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was fun. But
How did the
that's how it works when that was me following the voice, because
yeah.
I'm always listening to that, and I'm so happy to do whatever. And it's a lot of work, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun, and it's bringing me into higher and bigger formats as I go along. So now I'll be at the Frankfurt Book Fair. So I mean, there you go.
And
There you
so,
go.
how did the radio show, the positive moments, how did that come about?
Well, I had the voice, and it said get a syndicated show, and so I looked online, and then I found this fella in St. Louis that does radio shows. I was on the radio a lot, by the way. I mean, I before I did this syndicated thing, I was interviewed a lot, and different things would come up, and they'd have me. There was people on the radio that would call me during sweeps week, which is when they need a lot of people
Mhm.
Yeah.
joining
Need
it.
the high ratings. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had me on during sweeps week, so that tells
Nice.
you that I was popular.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I talked to him, and he said, well, I told him what I wanted to do. He said, well, here's a couple names of some guys that in St. Louis. I mean, he was in St. Louis too. Anyway, we became good friends, and you can call them and see what they can do. And so I called one guy. His name was Rich Dalton, and he was a big at that particular time. He was a big name in St. Louis. And so we got together. It was so interesting because I love the way the universe works. We got together and we started doing some recordings, and then we would send the recordings to this other guy, and his name is gone right now. But anyway, and then he would get it sent all around the country to all these different
Oh,
stations.
wow.
So
Yeah.
110, 120. I couldn't remember what the number was. Um, took the show. It was a 15-minute show, and it was all about positive. In fact, I was using the column again. I was using that same format, um, and then we'd have call-ins to call in about the information that we gave out, and then we would answer those questions and so forth. And that was
Okay.
I've always loved doing that. I've always loved interacting with people. It was really great. So that's how it
Um,
started. It was fun.
okay. Another question just popped up in my head. You interviewed Miguel Ruiz.
Yes, yes. Miguel Don Miguel Luis. Yeah,
Don Miguel Ruiz. I
yeah,
was like, what's the whole name? I know that's
yeah,
not all
yeah,
of it.
yeah. I have to
And
say,
for,
I have to start with Don so I can get the whole name. Don Miguel
yeah,
Luis. Yeah, the four agreements, and
he
yeah,
wrote the Four Agreements. For those
yeah,
of you, that's a huge
It's
bestseller.
yeah,
massive.
Sold
yeah.
how many millions of copies?
Of that, I don't know, but
I don't
yeah,
know, but
yeah,
it's huge.
yeah.
Laura's looking it up right now. I can see her. So how did that come about? How did you
Well,
make that connection?
yeah. Actually, Rich said, you know what? You have a radio show. Why don't you contact any author that you'd like to talk up to, and ask them if they'd be a guest on your show? And so I did that, and he said sure.
Oh my
And
God.
so,
And that's
I mean,
like us.
it's actually so simple if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
That's
us reaching
amazing.
out to, I don't know. Um, I'm just drawing a blank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back when I was in my studies long ago, I was so enamored with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Do you know who she is?
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
I mean, at that particular time, she was very hot, but she wrote these books on death and dying, and she broke through some barriers, And because people were, oh, you can't talk about death and dying. In fact, she was like defamed and everything else because she was actually doing this. And she was a psychiatrist, so she had every right. And but she really talked to people who were dying and just talked to them and let them talk to her. And it really started a whole trend. I loved this woman, and I loved her bravery. I loved everything about her. And I wrote her a letter, and I said, she lived in Chicago. I said, I'm in Chicago regularly. I'd love to get together and talk to you. And she wrote me back, and she called me. Actually, I was in Chicago. She called me. She said, um, "Well, when are you going to be in Chicago? Or when are you available? You can come on over and talk."
That
And
is so
so
awesome.
yeah, so we got together. I had to borrow a car because I flew into Chicago, so I had to borrow
That's
And
awesome.
but anyway, what a lovely woman, and so heartfelt and so directed in her path. So I mean, she's like everything I love. So
Mhm.
anyway, so we got together and we got to talk, and I did write up some things about that too. So yeah,
Yeah.
but you start with something. You start with a letter or a phone call. You start
Yeah.
somewhere. Everybody, I'm saying this to everybody. If you have a dream like that and you have a something that is so important to you, start with a phone call. I mean, people I know want to do only text messages and they don't want to talk to people. But I think if
Yeah.
you start, but you just have to break the barrier. And it's not like the barrier is thick or anything. It's just they want to talk to you, but you have to start it. You have to start it.
Yeah. And nowadays, um, email is just, there's so much of it, like
Yeah.
they receive so much of it, that a call is like refreshing, right?
Yeah.
Or actual snail mail.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Where you actually put some effort into it. You just don't
Mhm.
type up a real quick.
Yeah.
They have to. I think one thing I can do is I come across with my heart because what I'm doing is in my heart. So I think people recognize that,
That
and
intention, right?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think that people make it bigger than when I started this column. And the first column that I wrote, it was like here's where all the fears were. What if people don't understand what I'm writing? What if I don't write good enough? What if I can't come up with a theme every week? Blah 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 blah. And when I thought about it, I went, okay, well, I mean, worst case scenario, I always go to the worst case scenario. So I write them, I call them and say, I ran out of ideas. I can't write it anymore. Like, that's never going to happen.
Right.
I've been writing about the same stuff for years and years and years. So, yeah,
Yeah. It's like worrying about, well, somebody's already done that, but they haven't done it your way.
yeah,
They haven't
exactly.
done it the way you do it,
That's right.
Mhm.
That's
the
right.
way that you are with people. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's
that's right.
it's like you
That's right.
said, no one can compete with you because there
No.
isn't anyone else like you.
That's right. Exactly. I mean, it's like the snowflake thing. Every snowflake has a different design. Well, I feel like we're the snowflakes, and we
Hmm.
we all have a different design, but that
We're all
doesn't mean
flakes.
we're all flakes. We're all the
That's
unique.
perfect. Yeah.
I love it. And I love your view on divorce. So I want you to talk about that.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I look at divorce the same way I look at just about everything. It's an experience, and you complete it. you know, it's very hard for two people to get together and be together for ever and ever. I think they have to actually grow together for that to happen. And oftentimes that doesn't happen because I'm on a certain trajectory and my partner's on a different trajectory. Maybe he's more interested in being a successful business person and I'm into spirituality and then at some point that meeting point they had originally is no longer there and one person's gone off on their path and that connection's gone. And
Mhm.
so I feel like, you don't necessarily hang out with the kids you hung out with in grade school. And that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that
Right.
they weren't great friends and you didn't have a good time and all that. It was for that moment in that time, it was perfect. And I feel the same way about marriage that we have a societal thing about oh, you can't, if you got a divorce, you're a failure or something. And I think it's ridiculous because
Yeah.
we outgrow people. We outgrow people. If we're growing, we're going to outgrow people.
I
It
think
doesn't
that's
mean
key.
that they're bad. It doesn't mean that you're right and they're wrong. It doesn't mean
Right.
any of that.
It means you're growing, and that is good. And
It
it
means
takes a
that you're on a
lot.
path and they're on
Yeah.
their own path.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
or they're
Well, the
not.
idea, because women for so long, like you, as women, we had to stay where we were and endure whatever we were enduring for
Hmm.
so long outside of that. So it's not even like a lot of times we were taught like this is what you want. Of course, you want to be perfect, but if you get into something, oh
Yeah,
well, that's a lifetime choice. That is a whole lot to take in,
yeah.
and then not feel like a failure or something like that,
Well, remember that the failure thing is a cultural program.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then and that's what I'm all about. I look at these programs and I decide, does it make sense? And oftentimes it just doesn't make any sense. And so I have to formulate my own idea about what the truth is in this. But I also am very connected to that voice that we're talking about, that intuition. And thank you for that, because that's been my guide throughout. I mean, when I was married, I'm divorced twice, by the way. When I was married the first time, I knew that I was going to die if I stayed in the marriage.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
knew that, and I thought, so I can give my children this opportunity to see a growing woman, an empowered woman, and walking her own walk, or I can stay here and just diminish and crumble. Which is what was going to happen, probably through illness. I could see the illness, and I thought, what I'm giving them really is this bigger picture of what's possible.
yeah.
And so I had to remove that whole stigma of divorce and replace it with this idea that I was offering them something that was like, you can be as big as you want to be. You can be as true to yourself as you want to be. You can have that. You can have that spirit of 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 light and truth, and
Absolutely.
you have to choose that path. You have to choose it. And if it means leaving people behind, then that's what you have to do. Because that inner space of what you're developing is so much bigger than holding on to something that is slowly dying anyway.
Yeah.
So I always say I completed 2 marriages.
Completed. I love
I
that.
love that. Yeah.
Completed
That's
civil
great.
because that's really the truth of it. It was a
Mhm.
completion because whatever each one of those things held was completed. You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
and I think that there's a synchronicity when people show up in your life. A Course in Miracles says it's a divine moment. When people show up in your life, it's a divine moment because there's something they're bringing and there's something you're bringing. And I really believe that, but that doesn't mean that that's going to stay there forever.
Right.
That's a moment that's in this moment, and it's
Mhm.
to be celebrated.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that we have to hang on forever.
Well,
Yeah.
since we're in choice, and like you said, it's the growth. Are we growing in
Yeah,
the same path? Are we not? Is one stagnant? We're not. Is it up, down? Like those are the things that as years go on, and those are the real things, the real
yeah,
life things that
yeah,
marriages
yeah.
face, in all of that. So giving that grace and saying that's not a failure. You're right. It's completed. This is our time. This is what we needed. This is, and since we're in choice,
Mhm.
that's the beautiful part of that is that
Yeah,
the choices made within the time frame that we were together
yeah.
may not have aligned us up for future,
Sure,
and
absolutely.
that works, so yeah,
And
it
you can do the
definitely.
same thing with a job.
Mhm.
That we've all
Yes.
had different jobs, and there was a moment when that was perfect, and then there was a time when it was like, okay, now it's time to move on.
Mhm.
And so if you wait too long, they probably dismiss you. But if you do it when you can really recognize the timing, then you can actually go on yourself and find the next place to be.
Oh, I
So I
like
mean, I
that.
think it happens all the time in every different way.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Friendships, all kinds of relationships.
Where you're living.
Yeah.
It might be
Mhm.
time to move on from there, because it served its purpose. It's complete.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
complete.
I can really see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can
Our
remove the
move was
whole idea of
quick.
failure from our vocabulary because
Yeah.
if we learn to look at things correctly, and I mean that correctly, there's no failure.
Can we just call it feedback?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I
I,
don't know what you would mean by that, but
but
Experience.
failure is feedback. That's all it is.
okay,
Success is feedback, right?
okay.
So when you try something, you fail or succeed or somewhere in between. It's all
Mhm.
feedback,
Yeah,
right?
and what is success then too? I mean, that's another whole thing. What is success?
Hmm.
You know, I mean, is it
It's
living
different
your
for
full life?
everybody.
Or is it having a ton of money in your bank account? Or is it, I mean, it could be all those things. I don't know. But I think we have to question all those things. We have to question all those concepts.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
because a
my
lot of
success
it is
doesn't look like others, and theirs doesn't look like mine. You know,
Yeah.
like that was one of the very first things in learning was, um, yes, it's great hearing where everybody's at and stories and different things. But a lot of time I had to define what success really was for me before I
Absolutely.
could move forward in any way of going, okay, now oh look, I succeeded. Because then there was no recognition of it done because it wasn't monetary, or it wasn't like, the big burst bubble kind of thing, so you have to really step back into that and go, what does this even mean to me? I'm
Yeah.
a
right.
real humble
That's the
person, and
perfect
that meant
question,
more
though.
to me.
That's the perfect
Yeah.
question. That's the perfect question.
Because
Because,
is it
recently I heard an interview from a guy who had tons and tons of money, had a great big mansion and all this, and he was completely alone. The kids had severed ties with him, and he didn't have any friends, and it's like, so how was he successful? You
mm,
know, all he had was a bank account, you know,
mm,
and he had a name in, I guess, lights or something in some faction, you know, but he was lonely and he was, not a particularly nice man to be around.
Right.
And, you know,
yeah,
but the world would say he's a very successful man.
successful? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Money.
think
And
that,
how much
yeah,
of it is conditioning and unconscious bias that we have learned
yeah,
in our upbringing?
yes,
Mhm.
yes. And skewed. And so I think that's why people go into so much pain when they're changing because they have to let go of some old concepts so that they can move forward. And if they're hanging on, like marriage is another one. If you hang on, even though it's miserable and neither one are you happy, and it's really that sucky feeling is going out through all the whole home and children and everything. I don't know that. I mean, it's just not healthy. It's not healthy. And how can that be a success? That so it's an old standard that we need to challenge. And I
Hmm.
don't just mean marriage, I mean everything. We need to
Yeah,
challenge all of it.
Yeah.
absolutely. And so the question you were saying, Laura, about what does it mean for me?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Such a great question. What does it
Yeah.
mean for me? For me, my family, for
Right.
where I want to go, what I want to
Mhm.
do.
And
Um,
there's money obviously involved in that. Like I have an idea, like financially, where that success would land into. But what does my family feel? How are we doing? How am I doing? Is self care part of it? Is this part of it? It's Am I doing community stuff? Like it's the whole part. So I'm never gonna. There's never part is like, well, I'm not worried about the money. Money's part of business. You
right?
do need the
Yeah,
money, but
it's
it's
very
all of
ocean.
it,
Yeah.
and the amount is different. I don't need what others may need, and I know people who like huge extravagance, and that's their world. It's personally not really mine, and I don't even think if I had all the money in the world that that's what mine would look like. So
Right.
it's that idea of, even then, I'm really excited for my friends when they're promoted, or
Yeah.
they're
It's
getting more and
beautiful.
they're doing more. And again, it comes back to that of, I'm not there, but that may not be my success. Or if it is, it's something for me to strive to. But I don't ever down talk, or I don't know what
Diminish.
the word is, diminish what they're
Yeah.
doing. It's a celebration.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it for me. That's just kind of what it always meant in success. And that question, and really saying that. So sitting down with my husband and saying, like, what
I
does
don't
this
think
look
so.
like?
I
What
don't
does it
think
mean?
that by doing what speaks to your heart means that you have to be without money. I want to make
Right.
that clear because
Oh
I
yeah.
think the universe is filled with money. It's
Yeah.
filled with money. And if we claim it, if we allow it, we can claim it. It can come.
Allow it.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have to get our own small self out of the way so that we get rid of all these judgments and everything, because the money's always there. It's
Hmm.
there.
Mhm.
It's just that we can't make it a bad thing because money is nothing. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just
It's
a
inert.
resource.
It's it's the energy we put behind it, right?
Yeah,
It's an
yeah,
energy exchange.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
We
there.
expend energy to earn the money, and then we
Yeah,
spend the money. But
yeah.
it
Yeah.
came from energy.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all it is. It's just a form of energy. It's simpler uh, to exchange green bills than it is for me to give you a chicken every time you do something for me. And that
Do
was
you have
rude.
chickens? Do you have
I would give
chickens,
you
Jean?
and you have too many chickens already, so you don't need it.
I used to have chickens. I love chickens. I don't have any now.
Okay, well, I'll buy you one. How's that?
Not anymore.
Our previous barter system just wouldn't be as
Yes.
Yeah.
convenient today as
Yeah.
you live across country from me. I can't be
Mhm.
shipping you chickens all the
Shipping me chickens and
Yeah.
goats. What else?
Well, and how you can get rid of the paper and put it in digital. It still
Yeah,
spends,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's still the energy. So it's that idea again.
yeah.
The bottom. It just changed the route.
But yeah, the form of it looks different,
Yes.
but it's more convenient,
Hmm.
and there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very rare for me to see money coming to me from a client. I mean, they give me their little plastic thing, and then I run that through, and
Yeah.
that's how we keep everything running here. So
Yeah.
all
I
good,
love
all
it.
good,
It's
all
all
good.
good.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's,
Absolutely. You shared an inspiring story,
oh yeah,
and and it just fit perfectly and
yeah,
everything we talked about today. So I'd
yeah.
love for you to share that.
About Roger Crawford, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Roger Crawford. I love the story myself. I read about it. He was a fellow who was born with a lot of physical disabilities. He had fingers in the wrong places. They had to like from his like elbow and stuff. They had to remove that. He was missing a leg, and I think the other one was too short. And so he had a lot of things, physical things that were wrong with his. As far as his brilliance, he was all there. And his parents decided that we are not treating this kid like a disabled kid. No, and they would talk to him like, you got everything you need to be as successful as you want to be, and just get out there. And so his dad would help him, like he would throw a football with him, and even though he had the very few fingers, he would find ways to catch the football. So, but Roger decided that he had a bunch of operations, and he had a prosthesis leg, but he decided he wanted to be a football player. And so his dad said, okay, well, let's figure this out. And so he would throw the football back and forth with him. Roger somehow or other got on the football team at school.
Awesome.
And
Neat.
yeah, I love this story too. And he was there, when he ran, he was running with a prosthesis. But the other team didn't know that. And so one day he had it in his mind, I'm going to make a touchdown. I'm going to make a touchdown. So he had it in his mind to do that. And then one day the ball happened to land in his arms, and he caught the ball. And he started running toward the goal. And some kid um, tackled him. And Roger said that the kid held on to his prosthesis leg, and
Oh.
he actually just got out. He just actually disconnected it, and he hopped
Oh.
across the line to the finish line, and he made his touchdown. And the kid was laying there holding on to his leg. And he said he couldn't tell which was more fun to watch this kid hold on to this leg or to make the touchdown.
Making a touchdown.
Yeah. And so anyway, so he was like the big winner of that game. But I love the idea that he just never stopped. And so as life went on, became very successful in the speaking world. And I'm sure I must have written a book or two. I'm not sure, but anyway, and he He was a pronounced, success in telling his story. And the whole idea what behind it was I was never treated as a disabled kid. I was always told I could do anything I wanted to do. Oh,
Mhm.
here's another one where he said to his dad, "Look it, I can't write very well because I don't have as many fingers, and I just need." I think you should talk to the teacher and ask him if I can get an extra day to get my homework done. And his dad said, "No, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is, so I can get he has an extra day free to get the homework in. If it was due on Tuesday, he could go Wednesday or Thursday. No, 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 we're not going to do that." So he said, we're going to ask the teacher to give you the homework and you're going to work on it earlier." So he said,
I like it.
you're going to have it by Sunday and you're working on it. And I loved that because the dad was like not buying it. He was not
Mhm.
buying it.
Mhm.
No, we're not treating you like you're disabled because you're not. You're quite a brilliant person, so you're going to do this. And
Yeah.
so he would just struggle with
It
at
was a
that point.
lot. It's about the attitude, right?
It's
Yeah.
all about like how you look at yourself. And
Mhm.
his dad was not going to let him get off the hook with that. You are going to see yourself as a full functioning person because that's who you are.
These
You
are
just have to
fantastic
accommodate
parents.
here and there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
And I think for
Reminds
each one
me.
of us, we can easily get into that, like, well, poor me, I didn't have the right education, I didn't have the right parent. One guy even told me he didn't have the right parents, and that was his reason.
That was his
You
excuse.
chose them.
No, you didn't get that from your parents.
We can't pick our parents. We
Oh,
can't.
I think we
Well,
resonate.
you pick your parents.
I think we resonate to our parents. I think if we look at our parents and say, you know, what is this about this man or this gal? You know, how am I just like them? How am I like them? Then you will come up with your answer on why you magnetize to that particular
Hmm.
set of parents.
So, yeah.
Yeah, or what like even if they're you know drug addicts and whatever, why did I resonate to this? And then
Mhm.
you'll begin to the question will give yourself lead to an answer that will help you understand why they are really the perfect parent. Because we're thinking, well, I'm not living in the Taj Mahal, and I don't have $1,000 uh, you know uh, handed to me every month just for being a kid. Um, but why? And I think that when we ask those kind of questions, we begin to understand because I have to learn how to make it on my own because I have the ability, I have the resources or something. I have to do this and I can't fall back and say, well, my parents were blah blah blah, you
Mhm.
know. And that's what this guy was doing is that I can't grow anymore because my parents were deficient in this and that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're talking to the wrong person here.
That is. Like that doesn't resonate.
I don't know of anybody who has this pie in the sky kind of life,
Yeah.
And if
No.
they
That
did, I
is.
would be more worried about them, to tell you the truth.
Right. And we did teach our son when he was struggling a lot and he just gets so frustrated and all of that. And I finally was like, look, you're going to have to learn the lesson. You could do it now and get it
Yeah.
out the way now, or you can wait till you're older and you're more stubborn in your ways. And it's going to be a much harder hit. So
Yes.
learn it now or wait. But either way,
Yeah.
that lesson's coming and I'll leave you up to that off or that
There you
choice.
go. It's
And it was
perfect.
one of those like, and now that we're, past certain points, it's now do you see why? It's like, yes. But it's the idea, it's like, oh well, you can avoid it. And I many times in my life I've been like, nope, not today. I'm not learning that one. A couple years
But you
later,
did
it's
it
gonna come
consciously, didn't
back,
you?
like,
Yeah, yeah.
you
You made a
eventually
conscious
have to.
decision, and then you knew that it was going to keep coming back at you, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right. So it's like,
yeah,
no,
I
yeah.
don't think it's always conscious though, but
yeah,
the lesson will keep coming back until you
yeah,
learn it.
Yeah.
yeah. No,
I've
you
seen
can
that in
count
my
on
own life.
that. Because you came in to have that lesson. I mean, it's not a bad lesson.
Mhm.
Whatever the lesson is, it's not a bad lesson. It's actually
Yeah.
going to help you expand yourself if you address it.
Yeah.
So, and but it means that we learn to look with different eyes, because if we were raised with this idea that we're Peter Pan and everything's supposed to be hunky dory all the time, then we miss the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then if we look at it with different eyes and go, what's this about for me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, see, I could have looked at that first publisher and said I was rejected. It never occurred to me that I was rejected ever.
Right.
So
Right.
I fueled me to keep going, because I really want to do this. And I know this, the other thing I know for sure, 100% is the inner voice that, what we call the still small voice, I call it the voice of intuition, is never wrong. Never, 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 never. So if you're getting this hit that it's time to A, B, and C,
Yeah.
then you better get moving toward A, B, and C.
You better get moving.
Moving.
Such a mom.
Start preparing. You know,
Right.
I've had that in the past, where an idea or concept or just a desire, and it's there, but if you don't act on it,
Mhm.
plan for it, take actions towards it,
Yeah,
it's just this thing sitting on the shelf
yeah.
Mhm.
And
until
there's
you.
something inside of you going, what am I missing? I'm stuck. What am I
Mhm.
missing? And you're stuck because you haven't taken the action that you were
Yeah,
told. Yeah,
and action could be anything. For
yeah.
me, it was like, okay, um, where do I want to go? What do I want to see?
Hmm, hmm.
What's the route?
Yeah.
um, and mapping it out and taking actions. What will I need while I'm on this trip?
Hmm.
Make a
Yeah.
list, see
Yes.
what you got, see what you need. And as soon as I started taking those actions, things started falling into
Yeah.
place.
Yes. Yes. Because you
And
were agreeing with the universe. There was that
yes,
synchronicity. We're doing this together.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it was such a valuable lesson to me, and encouraging
Yes.
too,
Yes. Yeah.
to know that, to have learned that lesson, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I call living in the world, but not being of the world.
Yeah.
Because you're not living by the what a lot of the world's edicts are, but you're actually in the world living a higher picture, living a bigger life.
Mhm.
Because the world can't give you all the things you want. It can lead you toward them, but it can't give that to you. And we could be famous and successful and rich and all that good stuff, but if we don't have that soul part, if we're missing that inner drive, or it doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
So, no, good for you. Kudos to you.
Yeah. I think when
Yeah.
we made the move to Oklahoma, like I left corporate. It was about 6 months later, or not even. It was, I think 2, 3 months. I was like, let's just go to Oklahoma and look at some houses and stuff like that. Like it was just really just a thought. We came back from Oklahoma, we picked a house, we put an offer, like, and we were moving in 3 months. Like, and
You went,
I'm a
"Woo!"
no change person. Like I take change in very slow, very meticulous because it scares me. I'm not big on it. So when my husband was like, "Are you serious?" Like it was one of those, you just made a massive life change in 3 months time. Like what, it was nothing like he had ever recognized. I definitely didn't recognize anything about it. And I was just like, okay, well, apparently I'm okay with doing this. So it was
Yeah,
very interesting. But having that change and just going with it,
yeah.
apparently something came over me. It's like now, and we're just gonna drag you through it. You're gonna
So you
do it.
knew
You're
it
gonna
was right because the way it
yeah,
came together, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you know what the other thing is, Laura? Everybody's afraid of change.
Mm. Are they okay?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, what if I run out of ideas for the column? What if they don't like my writing? What if they don't understand what I'm saying? Blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's the ego will feed you all that stuff. Like, oh my God, you're probably going to fail now. Oh, this is not going to work out very well. You won't find the house. A movie's going to be too hard. And all that. And it's just the ego gobbledygook. It's the ego, chatter. It's nothing. It's nothing. Because when you're being told move to Oklahoma, then that means spirits on your side. Spirits ready to have you move to Oklahoma. Spirits ready to show you the house. Spirits ready to give you all the resources you need to get there. So, what do you want to trust? Do you want to trust that voice, or do you want to trust the ego that's going to throw every block possible in your mind to make it difficult?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a lot of what I do is I help people here, really get in touch with what their soul wants
Mhm.
instead of all the reason the ego's afraid of it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
All right. We are coming up, and I love this conversation, but
Yes.
we're past the hour, and I would love to share the stuff that Jean is offering for the audience. So there's 3 free chapters from Set Yourself Free that we did talk about during the podcast. So she
Ooh.
is going to offer
Is
those to you,
that
and
the
we'll have
new
all the books
cover?
and goodies.
No, I didn't have the new cover. It's upstairs and I didn't have it. But this is the book. It looks just like this, and the cover's a little bit different, and it's got a big free on the front in white. But I'm gonna send 3 chapters of this to anybody who's interested in growing. And
Awesome.
all you have to do, yeah, as you were gonna say, I don't want to interrupt you.
You're fine.
Oh
Okay,
no, we're gonna leave the links and everything in the show
okay.
Yep.
notes. So yeah.
Yep.
Just
We'll put a
contact me and let me know this is what you want, and I will get you 3 chapters. And I hope you
yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just we'll put her email in there, but it's Jean at
Spiritualtransformation.com.
spiritualtransformationnoS.com.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much. And one of the things that we like to do is have the current guest introduce next week's guest. And
Oh, cool.
again, it's so cool how the universe has lined up our guests for us, and how I don't know, just how it all works together. So,
It's
Jean, take it
beautiful.
away.
All right. Well, next week you guys are gonna have Dominique, and she's a gifted energy conductor and geo love healer. And she possesses an innate ability to perceive the flow of gold energy within herself and others. Her expertise goes beyond energy healing. She is a soul map guide, helping individuals identify their source given gifts, as we've been talking about today, for
Hmm.
personal and business success. And with her innovative approach, Dominique empowers clients to integrate their unique strengths into 3D reality. Her holistic mastery in personal development and soul led business aligns perfectly with her transformative talk on soul led magic, navigating business with higher awareness through workshops, creative methods. She guides individuals toward balanced, fulfilling lives, embracing the essence of her summit message.
That's
Go
awesome.
down.
Yes, yes.
And we have talked a lot about many of those
Yeah,
things today. So
right.
I just love how we've kind of primed the pump for her for next
Yeah.
week. Super excited to be talking to her, and she'll be a first time guest.
Yes.
And our announcement again this week, we just opened up to doing sponsorships for the podcast. So if you're interested in sponsoring the podcast for a week or 2 or 3 or however many, you can find that information on our website or just email us and we can send that to you. But it's, sponsoring the podcast is a great way to, I mean, I listen to podcasts like every week. Do you listen to podcasts, Jean?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Yeah,
Yes, I do.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah. Like
yeah.
that's what we do now. When we're, I do
I'm
it when
out
I like,
walking and I'm listening to them when I walk.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like it when I'm doing
Yeah.
laundry or working around the house, whatever. And I talk back to them too. Like, oh yeah,
Right.
girl, what's
Why not?
so, it's a very effective way of marketing. So if you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And we will.
And did you want to say anything about the Facebook launch that we're going to be doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Jean is relaunching Set Yourself Free. She was approached by a publisher because there was such a demand. There were so many requests for her books. So she's going to be relaunching her book next month, August 16th, Thursday. We're going to do a virtual online launch for that. And so be sure that you connect with Jean on social media, get on her email list because she'll be sending out all the details for how to connect with her and it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We're going to do
Yeah.
a reading. We're going to do some
Yeah.
hot switching
There you go.
and give away some books. So to be a great opportunity to
Yes.
get more
I'm
connected.
excited. I'm excited.
I am too. I am
Yeah.
too. I haven't done a book launch since I think 21, 22. Everybody wrote a book in 2020, it seemed like. So then
Yeah.
everybody wanted to launch. But yeah. And
We're breathing the wheels again, right?
Yeah.
Breathing the wheels again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
There'll
you
be more
so
coming.
much, Jean, for being with us today. It has been a pleasure, as always, talking to you. Yeah. All right. That's a wrap for today. And we
Yes,
will see you
everyone.
guys next week, Monday. That will be the 22nd of January, 12 Eastern, with Dominique Lavesque as our guest. So see you guys next
Wonderful.
week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jean. Bye.